We are just starting off. Thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you. We are sort of just a crazy time right now, and we really appreciate everyone sort of coming on board and really sort of hanging out with us, having a conversation about some of the things that are really important. My name's Anietie Ekanem. I'm with OneBayview. Many of you get the newsletter OneBayview Insider. Really, that's geared towards just in an email format, trying to sort of share all the great things that are sort of going on in our neighborhood. OneBayview Speaks, which is this webinar series, is really sort of centered around how do we share some of the issues, concerns, but also answers, and the important people that are sort of making things happen with our neighbors in the neighborhood. And for me, it's really important. I actually started it a while ago because I had, in my job, I had the flexibility of being able to go to meetings. And what I noticed that a lot of them were at 10, 11, 1, and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And they somehow expected public feedback in the midst of all that when people are working. And that got translated into people didn't care, and that's just not the case. People in the Bayview and District 10, Potrero, Visitation Valley, we really do care about our neighborhood. We have a long list of people who have sort of fought for decades to make things as good as they are today. So yes, people care, and I wanted to sort of create a forum to help people connect, understand and be informed in a way that actually made sense for their schedules, and thus OneBayview Speaks. And then we're here today, 3 weeks in to the mayor's order, but around the sort of coronavirus. Last week, thanks for those who joined us, we had Supervisor Walton on board as we sort of geared up and sort of started to live through the whole corona life, so to speak. And this week we have the opportunity to be with Captain Dangerfield of the Bayview precinct. And just want to sort of say thank you so much for being with us today. I know that you were on the line last week, and you were sort of chomping at the bit to sort of get here and sort of, really sort of help out as a steward of sort of safety in our neighborhoods. I know there's a bunch of other issues. And there are going to be a few things. One, we're really going to focus in on COVID and coronavirus. During this discussion, I know there are a lot of other things sort of going on, but this is going to be like the focus for today. Mm-hmm. And if time permits, we might get into other things. I also want to thank everyone who's sort of on board, who's with us for submitting questions. And I have a lot of them right here. So if I'm looking down, you know what I'm looking at. So there are just a lot of questions, a lot of things that people want to sort of know about. And with that, I just want to thank you, Captain Dangerfield, for coming on board. I personally met you a few years ago, at least. And I think it was probably at a night out, actually, at first, where we were rocking out, and you were actually doing a lot to sort of not only organize the event, but sort of help at the event and sort of even passing out food and things like that. So I just want to say thank you. So you've been around here for a very long time. I just want to hear more about you and how did you actually begin at the Bayview station and even as a police officer?
Well, I thank you for having me, Anietie. I'm more than happy to be able to talk to people in the Bayview and tell them what's going on with the police department and COVID-19. I first came to Bayview Station as an officer way back in the early 2000s, and I was on patrol working midnights, so nobody saw me. So I was working midnights when everyone else was asleep. I came back here as a lieutenant in 2000 and I think it was 2012. And then I went to community engagement. I was there for a while, and that's where I met you. And then I came here last July. It was actually July 1st that I actually came to Bayview last year. More than happy to be at Bayview. I grew up in the Bayview, right up there on Bridgeview Drive. That's where I started. And then I moved over to Gerald Avenue, then I moved over to the White. So I spent a lot of years in the Bayview. And when we say the Bayview, I'm talking about the police Bayview as a district. I know the lines, whether it's Patola or what, or So I spent a lot of time in the Bayview. I know a lot of people here. I still have friends and family that live here. So I do understand the Bayview. I do understand Black people. I understand that we're a different breed, and uh, we have to be educated in different ways than everybody else, and give a different level of understanding and a different level of policing. Is what I hope to bring for the overall public safety of Bayview.
That's great. And as we're sort of talking about COVID-19 and coronavirus, a lot of this sort of is the same for pretty much all the cities. So whether you're in Potrero or Visitation Valley, these are still the same rules that we all have to sort of adhere to.
Yes, it is. No one in the police department has never experienced anything like this. So, those terms of like, you're changing on the fly, you have to be very flexible. The rules keep changing about how the police are supposed to respond, what protective equipment we're supposed to wear, how do we deal with the public, social distancing. All these things are completely new to everyone in the police department, as well as everyone in the city. No one has lived or did anything in these times. It is very, very traumatic for a lot of people. It is very scary for a lot of people. And the worst part about it is devastating financially for a lot of people. We get that. We understand that. What is essential? What's not essential? All of these things are all new, and we're trying to figure it out all at one time. But the most important thing that we all have to remember, and this is what we're trying to tell the officers as well as everyone they come in contact with, this is a health crisis. It's not a police crisis. It's not a police state. It's a health crisis. And to protect us all, we have all changed from being more of law enforcement officers to public health officers, and making sure that everyone understands that this is a health crisis. As of yesterday, they just required officers when they're to be out to wear masks. That's a whole different look. And does that scare people? Well, it may scare people, but they're saying something as well. This is a health crisis, and officers come in contact with people. And now they're saying to people in the city, they should be wearing masks. Now, we're not in a position to enforce, give tickets or anything like that for not complying, but we are trying to educate people as best as possible to understand. This morning, a whole new list came out about essential businesses and now the steps that they have to take. And it's a whole list of things, which I listed in next door to everyone. And also, I'm trying to get it on Twitter, but it's kind of long, so I have to figure out how to do that. But it's a whole list of things, and you can go to SF.gov and look under COVID-19, and you'll see it for essential businesses. They got to make sure spacing is right. They got to make sure that they're cleaning and sterilizing things in their own businesses. So it's a lot on everyone, and it's new. And we understand people don't get it. We understand the shelter in place is hard, but it's hugely important that we stay indoors as much as possible if we're going to stop the spread of the virus. And that's kind of a different teach for some of the different populations in the Bayview.
Yeah. So let's just dive in. What are the rules around shelter in place?
So we want you to stay inside as much as possible. We know people need fresh air. We know people have to exercise and do things like that. But walk around your neighborhood, exercise in your neighborhood. And then while you're exercising, remember social distancing and staying at least 6 feet apart. And again, the suggestion from the CDC is that you might want to wear something to cover your nose and your mouth. And it doesn't have to be a surgical mask. It could be a scarf, anything like that, just so you're protecting yourself.
Yeah. Another question that we actually got was, how are police officers and emergency responders keeping themselves safe? Because,
well,
and I just want to chime in on that. It's really important because if you guys aren't safe and you're taken offline, there are fewer people to sort of help the rest of us.
Right, and we've had 8 people taken offline here that had to self-quarantine based on the people that they had to come in contact with. That's 14 days for each one of those officers. So again, the police department is working to mitigate those things and have less officers have less contact. So one of the things they're doing is, if you notice, you see officers out there, they're not wearing a uniform like I'm wearing. They're wearing a BDU uniform, which is a cotton uniform. And the reason for that is cleaners are closed. So the officers have to be able to wash the uniform. So wearing the BDU uniform allows them to wash it more often, and so therefore it can get clean because these viruses can stay on the clothing. They're giving hand sanitizing wipes to wipe down all their gun belts, their radios, their body-worn cameras, the cars. They're being wiped down every single day at the beginning, at the end of each officer's shift. When they come in contact with people, they're wearing gloves. And so we're going through a lot of supplies, right? That's why it's needed. And I know a lot of people want to wear gloves and stuff like that, but they do have to think about when they're using them, they may be taking them away from some of the healthcare workers and the other first responders that must wear them or should be wearing them. Also, they're concerned about their own health. They don't want to get anything either. So they're trying to maintain their social distances. So they've changed the way we're taking reports. Usually if you had a burglary, they might go to the house, go all inside the house and see everything. Now they're asking the person to come outside and then keep the distance and then not have to go inside the house. We're limiting the number of officers that's going to go to a call. So if there's a hot call, like, some really call that requires a lot of officers, once that thing has calmed down, we're going to pull most of the officers off so that they're not all, if someone is exposed, they're not all exposed. So those are some of the things that we're doing. But we really need everyone's help to cooperate with that because it may be different from what they're used to. So we want everyone to can you call in your report? Can you call the station? Do you have to go to the station? We've even set up downtown and by way of dispatch. So if you call them, they're going to ask you a few more questions. And if that report can be taken over the phone, they're going to transfer you to some officers who's working inside and is going to take that report over the phone, opposed to exposing an officer to, someone that they don't know that may have. And we have to think that everyone may have the virus.
Thank you for that. Another question sort of came down the line around social distancing and enforcement. How is that being enforced? And I remember reading something that the mayor was even sort of talking about, like our parks, and if people don't get it together, those parks might close. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Some of the parks have been closed as a result of people not self-distancing. We don't have that many in the Bayview, but every day we get a few emails about some of the local parks around here. People may be playing soccer or they're playing basketball. It seems like nothing, but a basketball game is about 4, 5, 6 people in close contacts. That's what we're trying to avoid. And our role, again, as in the police department, is just education. Hey, social distancing, that's not one of the sports you should be playing, but we're not going to force people to stop. That's not our role. Our role is just to educate them, and hopefully they'll comply.
And then what can people do to sort of help you do your job better?
I think one of the great things that people could do is understand if they think like everybody they come in contact has the virus and they want to stay 6 feet away from that person. If you're going to go to the store, make sure you're bringing all your own equipment to wipe down what you need to, whether it be the shopping cart, whether it be the little, where you pay, the little device that you use to pay. Think about all those little things. Get what you need and go home. Don't just hang out, don't have a conversation, get what you need and go home. If you need to go to the drugstore and get your medicine, go get your medicine and then go home. Don't prolong your outside visits.
Mm-hmm. There were a couple of questions around sort of Third and Paloux, and there are a lot of people sort of congregating there. What can be done?
So it is a problem. I hear about it every day. What we've been doing this week is we've been stationing people fixed posts, which is very difficult to do. People do not understand how difficult it is to have officers just stand in one area. But we've dedicated for officers to stand in that one area to keep people moving, from them sitting at the flower thing at Mandel Plaza. It's just, we put out signs too. We got those big signs from DPW that say about social distancing. And we've also contacted the Department of Public Health because some of them need some other type of help that we can't provide. When it comes to alcoholism and things like that, we can't, they're not listening. But, if they're your family members, if they're your friends, help us out, tell them to stay home. Maybe they can go in their own backyard. I mean, I know people hate to be cooped up inside the house. I know it's very difficult. It's difficult for all of us, but we're in very difficult times and we will get through it. but we'll get through it together.
Yeah. Another question was really around sort of young people in parks and hanging out. Is there anything that we can do there? Anything that you can do? Any suggestion that you can make of us? This is a big one. I don't like three out here. I'm getting cooped up too, and of course I'm going to do what I need to do. But I'd love to be able to sort of listen to your advice around sort of young people or people gathering, and what I can help there.
I think it's extremely hard on young people. They may not get the whole totality of what's going on in the world. And I think it's upon the parents and friends to let them know that, them hanging out together, young people, they could be putting other people in their homes at risk when they return back home because they may have had some contact. What can they do? They can go out in front of their house. They can walk with you. I mean, we have to think of very creative ways, but we have to tell our young people it's important that we stay inside, and that's very difficult. And the funny thing is that I keep hearing from people of my age is that when we said to stay inside, they were like, when we said to go outside, they just want to stay inside, stay on their phones, play games. And now we say you got to stay inside. Now they want to go outside. So they have all the tools in their hands to be effective and communicate with their friends, but because we say stay inside, now they don't want to.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I'd also say this is the time to sort of get on social, right? And do those things. There are a lot of, for example, on TikTok, there are a lot of challenges sort of going on that can be done indoors with your family, et cetera. So maybe that's just sort of another sort of social way to sort of do different things. Another question sort of came up was really sort of about food insecurity, food access in the Bayview. Is there anything that your officers are doing to sort of help with that?
Well, I know that there have been some food drop-off places for people that need to get food. I know that the Bayview Opera House was one place that they were dropping off food. I don't have a schedule for this week, but I know there was a schedule last week. I know there's certain schools that are dropping off food for having food pickups for people that are at home, the young people. I know officers are also went to some of the schools to help with the distribution of computers for people doing the distant learning. So we've been involved in things like that. I know that there's pop-up food drives that are not just anybody doing, they're regulated by the city, where they're just giving out food at different places, and it keeps changing every day where it is. So again, the food banks are up and running and willing to help. So if you have anything or have any, well, I can't encourage people to go out and help right
now. I know. That's another big thing. I think there are a lot of people who actually would like to help, clearly have time on their hands, and it's just not very practical to do so. Although I will say that if there is an organization that you want to support and you have the means to go ahead and sort of donate to them, they have internal structures in place. So you can actually help with their operations and expanding the number of folks that they can actually help sort of moving forward.
And also understand in the Bayview, there are a lot of seniors and in your own neighborhoods. And you don't necessarily have to have contact to help out with them. You can give them a call and see if they need anything from the store while you're going, and just leave the bag out front of their door so they can get it, So there's always ways you can help out like that, taking their garbage cans out, things like that. That will really help them out so they don't have to expose themselves. Because there are a lot of people in the Bayview that may be at higher risk than others.
No, that's actually a really great suggestion. I personally have been volunteering with Kathy Davis in the Senior Center to deliver meals. They're doing an exceptional job delivering over 550 meals a day to seniors, and it's growing. So to the extent that we as a neighborhood and community can sort of help those who are less fortunate, I think that's a really great thing to do.
Yes.
If you want to donate to the Senior Services Center, please do so. And there are a number of other really great nonprofits that are doing work, especially during this time. Again, the Bayview Senior Services is a great example of that. And it's good to know that you are helping out. And on my route to sort of go drop something off yesterday, actually, it took me by Malcolm X, and I was watching officers actually with the mask on, helping out, and we had a quick conversation. I didn't know what they were doing, but it was the computer sort of loan program. So I think that's just a great thing to do, and thank you for that. Sort of really sort of help us all out. There was a question actually about speeding and sideshows. Like those things are still going on, right? Like they were illegal then, they're illegal now. Even though we're sort of in this sort of pandemic, what things are being done about them?
Yeah, the sideshows is a big thing that comes up in the Bayview, and we know all the areas they are. Now they're traveling sideshows. They're not just stopping in the Bayview, they're going to the Mission. They're coming from other cities, from Oakland, Richmond, then they're coming to San Francisco, Bayview, Mission, and Ingleside, right? Areas where they have space to do their little tricks and things. We are no longer in the mode of rushing down their lights and sirens and stopping the sideshow, because that creates more of a danger for the people that's there participating, the general public, and the people that are just watching. So we decided that if we go down there, they're all going to speed away and there's going to be an accident and someone's going to get hurt. That's not what we want. So as you know now, technology, all officers wear body cameras, and some of the vehicles have license plate readers on them. So what we're doing is we're staging the officers down in the area. So when they see the one car come with the lights and they start to leave, right, we stand fast, and hopefully the cameras are going to catch license plate readers on the cars, and these cars have multiple cameras on them, and they read license plates. And then we get warrants for those license plates and say this car was at this area, and it's going to get towed. And so we've been towing a lot of cars, which people don't care about. If we say we towed a car for what? It was, how do you know? Well, we don't have to give everything away, but we are just towing cars, and we'll go to Oakland and tow a car. We'll go to Daly City and tow a car. And then the person has to come retrieve the car. Mm-hmm. When they come to retrieve the car, we can tell them why the car was towed. And then hopefully they can go, was that you in the car, not you in the car? If it's not, then pay all this money because the fine is very high. And sometimes that will just deter them from getting involved the next time. Yeah. So those are some of the things we're doing. We have a whole task force that we're working with CHP and other agencies besides San Francisco to try to work in a coordinated effort. So we now know, well, they just left Oakland, so we now know when they're coming, mm-hmm. opposed to, and I know that does no good for the public to say, oh, you know when they're coming, why don't you stop them? Because if we barricade off the streets, I mean, you can't go anywhere either. So we have to balance all that. So we're working with that way.
Understood. Wow, there's a lot there. Neighborhood Watch, do they have a role to play in all this?
Absolutely, absolutely. We partner with San Francisco Safe, and they help us with all the neighborhood watches. They're professionals at that. They know what things to look for in your neighborhood. They have creative ideas on how to stop certain things that are happening, from barking dogs to even helping us figure out how to deal with sideshows. So San Francisco Safe is great at that, and we partner with them and have been partnering with them since 1976 on neighborhood watches. And it's always surprising when people go, oh, who is this safe organization? Well, it has been around since 1976. So they are available and very helpful in helping you start a neighborhood watch. And they also do security surveys for businesses as well as residents as well, which is a service if you're a resident, it's free if you're a resident. For businesses, there may be a slight fee, but it is an excellent thing to have done to your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if SAFE does this, but NERT, which is the Neighborhood Emergency Response Team, has been mobilized around sort of education. So being able to sort of leave educational materials either on doorsteps, et cetera, without interacting with anyone. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if that's something that SF Safe could do also, sort of be able to distribute just information to folks. We had a couple of people who talked about even their own roommates not really sort of adhering to social distancing, thinking this whole thing's a hoax. And it's like, what can we do in order to sort of get more information out to folks who might not think this is real?
I think one of the issues is that a lot of people thought, oh, this was just like the flu. But I think as time goes on, I think real is starting to hit. I notice real is starting to hit this week. I know that San Francisco State puts out a lot of stuff on their website, as well as they have a Twitter account, and they have a Nextdoor account. So, look out for those things, search it, and you should be able to find some. I know the city has put out those social distancing posters and signs, stay home. I got some right here in the office, 6 feet apart. What's the other one say? Yeah, 6 feet apart, and they're in multiple languages. And we're starting to pass those out to the stores and have them posted on the windows and things like that. Again, in a short amount of time, really, if you think about it, really at the beginning of March seemed like the longest month ever. But in the beginning of the March, it was like, wow, this happened. And now we have signage. Now we have proper rules, and we're only trying to get better at doing this. And I think the people in San Francisco, and especially in the Bayview, we can do this and we can get through this, but we just got to stay home.
Tell me about business closing times in the Bayview and sort of D10 and parts of D11, I think.
Yeah, this has been an issue because the longer stores stay open, again, the more people are exposed, the more people are encouraged to go out, and the point is to stay home. So, the essential businesses, we want them to stay open. And thankfully, the mayor decided, after we saw problems in the police department with them staying open late, to limit the hours from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. for all essential businesses. That's everybody. And I even think in Bayview, they can even be limited more. But that's not up to me. I have presented that to, my bosses and said, I think they should be from 10 to 6 p.m. Especially some of the corner liquor stores, because even though they have essential stuff in them, the majority of people are going in there for some alcohol or beers and things like that. They're not going in there to buy food, really. And I personally monitored some of those stores, and that's not good for us. At this time, it's not good for us. We need our immune systems to be as great as they possibly be. So the people that have alcohol issues, we need to address them, and that's why I've talked to the Department of Public Health about that to help us out with that. But I really think we should even limit those hours even more to prevent the hanging out and the drinking and stuff on the street. Because when I go up and talk to people, they're like, oh man, this is nothing. Oh man, I can't force them to do anything. I can only educate them. That's what we've decided to do in San Francisco.
There's a lot there. And we thank you for that. Another question sort of come through is homelessness. How are we dealing with homeless issues now versus before the pandemic, before March? And what role is the SFPD playing?
So, homelessness is an issue in San Francisco, but it's not just a city issue. It is everyone's issue that lives here. In Bayview, we have the largest amount of motorhomes with homeless people in them. How are we dealing with that now that we're in a pandemic? We're not moving homeless people around. We don't want people to be moving. We want them to be staying where they are, because the more we move people, the more we spread the virus. So we're saying is we're keeping them in, and there are agencies that are giving tents to people. So you're going to see more tents than you've seen, and it doesn't look good, but we're trying to make sure the tents are 6 feet apart. And think what we're doing. We are isolating, and I say we, the city is doing this, not the police department, but we're isolating the people into a tent, so therefore they're not spreading the virus. That's the #1 goal right now. So no one's being moved. And we've had some issues in some of the shelters where people had to be taken out of the shelters because there was a COVID outbreak. So then you got to clean the things up. So this is new to everyone. So we're just trying to work with it the best we can. But the police department is not moving anybody. We're not enforcing any of the homeless rules at this time. But we are referring everyone that has sent me requests about this homeless encampment. We're referring them to the what we have as HSOC, the Homeless Outreach Team, right? And they're with a whole health department, a lot of different people, Homeless Coalition. They're all working together. We're forwarding them to them so that at least they can get a count as to where everyone is.
Wow, sounds like that's always been a big issue. It's a bigger issue now, and it sounds like you need a little bit of our patience. So hopefully we can sort of get through this. Someone actually asked, quite honestly, what can we as sort of D10 or Bayview residents do as far as supporting that 6 p.m. closure time?
Oh, I mean, again, you would have to talk to your supervisors, things like the city attorney, because I think it would be good for us at this time. Is in the faster we get at getting over the pandemic, then we can open up the regular times and deal with it, right? Everyone is taking a hit, and I know people want to stay in business. I cannot fault anybody for trying to make the money, right? And to keep working. I understand it's devastating to a lot of people, but I think for health reasons, this is why we need to do it. And go out and look for yourselves. Go out on the 3rd Street corridor, as it gets closer to the nighttime or early morning and see what's out there. Peer pressure is great too. Maybe you might say, hey, you know what? Talk to the store owners yourself and see what happens. I think because everyone I've talked to is like, when they said cut it from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., nobody was like, oh, no big deal, we understand, right? But they need support in that. They need support.
Well, there's a lot there. Another question that came up, and I think our supervisor sort of touched base on this, sort of crime before COVID, crime after COVID. What are the crime stats looking like right now?
Well, crime is down. A lot of crimes are down. Burglaries are down. Why are burglaries down? Because everyone's in their house, right? So, and burglars don't usually like to break in when people are home. So burglaries are down. So crime is down. There's still some violent crime that happens in the Bayview, and we address that. And that was happening before, and it's still happening now. And it does have to do with young people. So crime is down, but still there's other things that come up. The fraud things are up. People coming to your door saying, hi, we're from the health department, and we want to make sure. Those are all scams. The health department isn't coming to your house, right? The IRS isn't calling you on the phone. They're not calling you to get your social security number, to send you a stimulus check. None of that stuff is happening. And so people have to be alerted to the fraud, especially with our elder generation population, to make sure that they know that these things are frauds. The IRS doesn't call you on the phone. These things don't happen. So the next one's going to be the stimulus, because there are sending out checks. But most of them are going to be direct deposits. So there's nothing you're going to do. And they're taking it from the information that you've already submitted from prior years. So they're not calling you. They're not coming knocking on your door. So that's hugely important that people understand. So those type of crimes are going to be on the increase. The traffic is going to be low because, I don't want people to be speeding, but people need to be on their best behavior when it comes to traffic, okay? Because we don't have the personnel to put in that close contact as we should, right? Because we try to protect our personnel, but we don't want people to get hurt. We don't remember that we still have a high pedestrian and traffic accident collision that cause injury. So people need to really be on their best behavior when they're driving. And I'm counting on you guys to do that.
That is, yeah, no, there's just, I keep saying this, but there is so much here that you're sort of holding on behalf of all of us. Another question that sort of comes to mind that was asked, actually, before that, I actually wanted you, when we were talking, even before this, you mentioned today that there is an academy graduation. And it was unlike any other. Can you sort of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, before this started, so today is the graduation of our police academy. And normally it's a big celebration. They go to an auditorium, their family and friends are there, but not today. It's held outside and at the police academy. They have to sit 6 feet apart. There's no speakers. It's just the chief and the sheriff and the academy staff. Their families can't be present. So they broadcast it on Twitter Live, so that at least the families could see their family members graduate and receive their stars from the chief of police. And we'll have a celebration when we get to the other side of this, but that's totally different. I mean, whoever thought we would end up doing that? And we even had to postpone an academy class because of the COVID outbreak, because you can't be in close quarters. That's the order. We have to follow the order as much as anybody else. When we have lineups, they're either in a big community room or out in a public area, because the other space we had was not big enough to keep people 6 feet apart. So it's a lot. It's a changing of the whole world for everyone. So we're trying to be good models of that as well, and we hope that everyone else does as well.
Someone asked, are you still hiring at the SFPD?
We are still hiring, and now is a great time to get hired, right? Um, right now, though, all our personnel has been related to the health crisis at this point. So please put in an application. All that stuff is still going to go through, but all officers are all hands on deck during the pandemic. A lot of other services that we did in the admin area, they've all been shut down, and everyone is out because we have to use everyone. And we're doing this system of preserving our workforce. So if we do get a large group to get sick, we're able to move other officers into other areas. These are things that we have to think about, because if people get sick at Bayview Station and half the officers are gone, what do we do? So that's why they're thinking of alternative staffing plans and things like that to make sure that if something like that is to happen, Bayview doesn't go without any policing or any other district station. So there are plans in place. So they're using the admin staff. Remember, we have officers in all types of functions. So it's good for them to understand it's important to drop what you're doing. And when it comes to public safety, that's what we're here for, not all that paperwork.
So another question sort of comes up because, this is sort of talking about what we all can do. We might be going through this for another, couple weeks, several weeks, don't know. That's far above my pay grade, but
it'll be a short amount of time.
But can you talk about any mental health services that are like available, or like just stress relief? Because people love their families. Sometimes just being in close quarters for this extended period of time is just far too much. To those who actually really might need sort of mental health services, just can you speak to sort of that broad spectrum of what people can sort of do around sort of stress and managing stress?
I know the city is working on different areas you can go to and get mental health services. I am not a mental health professional. I try to play one on TV, but I'm not a mental health professional. I am a peer support person for the police department internally. And here's some of the things that I tell the officers. We will get through this. That's number one, because we always do, right? And it's how we deal with every day. So we have to think of trying to find some good in every day, do something, watch something. You cannot watch the news 24/7. It will drive you crazy from points of views and what's true and not true. Try to get as much correct information as you can by going to some of the official websites, CDC, the WHO, and figure out what the latest information is. Get that information and leave there. And then watch something mindless if you're going to watch TV. Play a game with your kids. Monopoly, that lasts for hours. That'll take up some time. Just do something different, maybe you're going to, everybody's cooking. If you look at the Instagram, everyone's putting on what they cook. That's always a good relief. Just do something and talk about something different, but understand, number one, we're going to get to the other side of this, right?
You can always play with your dogs or your cats or your pets, and of course your kids. Just have fun doing it.
Yeah, and just just think that it's hard, because I know every one of us is going to get stressed about this at any one point, but hopefully we can rely on the other person that's going to help us pull it through for that moment. So that's what being a peer is. But I know there are great services that are set up in the city for people that want them.
I know that DPW will be deploying sort of temporary toilets. Do you know anything about that, or?
I haven't heard about that. I know they're supposed to be doing a lot in the Tenderloin. In the Bayview, I know we only have the one out at Mindale Plaza, but I heard in the Tenderloin they're supposed to be doing a lot more during the pandemic.
Okay, great. All you folks out there, let me know if there are any other questions. I think one of the other ones that sort of came up was the ship that's berthed here. Why is it berthed here and not down at Pier 27? That's a little.
Everybody asks about this ship. It's a beautiful cruise ship to have off when you look at it, from the side, but I don't know where the cruise ship is supposed to go. I'd rather it be out there in the middle of the water where we can see it than it be docked, alongside, one of the piers. People that work on cruise ships, they live there. That's where they live for the 6 or 7 months while they're working. So the ship isn't selling any passengers. So, to burn fuel just to go somewhere, and that ship was a ship, I do know this, that ship was a ship that was coming in and out of San Francisco. So if those trips aren't going, when they do start up going again, well, at least it's in the proximity to where it's supposed to be. But I think all the cruise ships are shut down for 30 or 60 days. I'm not exactly sure. But I don't think I mean, I'm not a professional in that, but I don't think there's any safety concerns or issues with the ship being out there. And since it's not full of passengers, it can't be producing much, garbage and stuff as it would if it had 3,000 people on there.
And but that's still primarily a Coast Guard issue and not necessarily an SFPD.
Oh no, it's definitely not an SFPD issue, and I don't know where the legal waters is. I know we do have SFPD does patrol the waters, but I don't know how far out we go. But I know we do patrol the waters, and when that ship was in the water, we were patrolling that area. We have 3 boats that's in the water.
Another question that sort of came up was around shopping. So do you know which stores have sort of senior shopping hours, or are the police sort of being brought in to sort of help enforce that even in a friendly way to ensure that some of our more vulnerable folks have their allotted time to actually do their shopping?
In the Bayview, there's a few stores, and there hasn't been any problems here. We have officers check in with those managers every day to see if they're having any particular issues. A lot of them have did the first hour and a half as for people with for the seniors and also people with disabilities. They can go in and shop, and they limit the numbers. I know even next door to us at the food co, they're now limiting the amount of people that can go in at any one time, just in general operation. So I know a lot of stores are now doing that. I know they're doing that as well at Grocery Outlet over there behind San Bruno. So a lot of stores are doing that. We're not having that great success with the corner stores though. So, help us out with that. If you go to those corner stores, make sure you just kind of make sure you maintain your social distancing.
Yeah.
The bigger stores seem to have no issues.
Okay, that's good to know. And then when there was another question that sort of came up, pardon me, everyone. I did want to touch base on the businesses, right? So there are these new rules that sort of have come out. Will you folks be part of sort of helping to enforce those new rules that businesses have to sort of put in place? And a great example is, I know going into stores, some of them have those 6-foot apart sort of pieces of tape on the ground at like a checkout and things like that. Are you going to be brought in to sort of help enforce those, even if it's in a friendly way?
It's just more of an education. This is what you should do. And the new list that they put out includes a lot of that stuff. It tells you what they should do, when they should have hand sanitizer, wipes, or something for people to be able to clean up with. But we're just kind of eyes and ears for the city attorney. They're the ones that are going to kind of put the hammer on it. They came out with the new thing about smoke shops, and I'm not talking about marijuana dispensaries. I'm talking about these stores that sell the paraphernalia to smoke, but they'll have some chips and soda and water, and so they think they're essential. So they just cracked down and said, nope, that's not essential. They have to close. So after we're done here, and I know we have one in the Bayview that I need to go check on and make sure that they know what the new rule is. And they're going to be resistant, and understand that they're resistant because people need to make money. So, and they still got to pay their rent. So it's not our role. If they don't comply, all we're going to do is write a report and send it to the city attorney.
Okay. And the city attorney will be the ones who
give them a contact, and yeah.
Great.
And we warned them before the mayor changed the hours. They had us go out and warn all the stores, hey, this is coming, so start preparing. And then the order came out, and they were really right on the spot change.
Understood. Wanted to just sort of touch base. Is there anything else that you'd like to sort of share with folks around what we should or should not be doing right now, or how we can help out SFPD and sort of keep ourselves safe?
Well, I mean, it's helping all of us out, not just the SFPD. I think it's important, again, staying at home, limiting your movement is hugely important for public safety. That's the #1 thing right now, is our public safety. If you know friends, family, try to get them to stay at home. Talk on the phone. Check up in on your elders in your neighborhood. I know we all have, elders that are parents and stuff like that. We even have to limit that movement because we don't want to infect them in any way. So as much as we can help telling each other what we need to do to get past this, this is what we need to do. That would be most helpful for everyone in the city and worldwide.
Great. Thank you so much. And I know that, Dan, thanks for the public toilet. I'll be sending that out via our newsletter. Folks, go to Twitter, OneBayview SF, our Facebook page, facebook.com/OneBayview. Captain Dangerfield would love for you to sort of share, is there a hashtag or a URL that we should be taking a look at to sort of get updates?
I know the CDC website is a great update for good information. Also, the San Francisco website, sf.gov, has tons of information that should pop up once you go there about COVID-19 and all the rules. It's hugely important that we're all in this together, and we're all going to get through this together if we all follow the rules. And I know it's hard, and when talking to some of my brothers and sisters in the Bayview, you guys want to be out. It's a nice sunny day, you know. Hopefully it rains and pours this weekend, so everyone stays inside, you know, because it's important. It's for our own safety.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for sort of being part of this. It's really important to me. You will be getting a survey because we're trying to figure out what the next few ones are going to be. We are sort of seeing if we can highlight the faith community because there's a lot of amazing things sort of going on there. And we're talking about all different types of faiths that are sort of represented throughout District 10. In addition, we're taking a look at the small business and the sort of business programs, both nationally, California-wide, and locally. And of course, we want to do one on the medical and sort of any of the sort of advances that have sort of been had or any other things that we need to be made aware of. So we'll be sending something out to everyone because we're trying to sort of organize this all. Oh, and lastly, one other thing that we're sort of taking a look at, schooling, right? Like I was on the phone with some folks who were full-time staying home, and I have to learn how to teach my kid. This is insane, right? In addition, schools provide 2 to 3 meals a day for a lot of kids, right? That changes the dynamics at home, and sort of what does that sort of look like? So we're sort of trying to sort of piecemeal all of that, but in order to do that most effectively, we'd like to sort of have your feedback. So be prepared to take a look at that. We really do appreciate you. And I want to send a special thanks to you, Captain Dangerfield. Really appreciate you today.
My pleasure. No problem. Thanks for having me, Anietie.
Absolutely. And everyone in Bayview, let's keep ourselves safe.